Okay, so today we're gonna dive into the world of AI-driven robotics.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those robots that seem to get smarter every time they do something.
Right.
But the question is, what's really powering that intelligence? Is
Yeah.
it traditional patents like we always hear about, or is it something else entirely?
It really makes you think because, we're so used to patents being the only way to protect inventions,
Right.
but in a field like AI and robotics,
Yeah.
especially looking at a company like Slick Robotics,
Mm,
they're changing things up
they are.
by putting data front and center as their most important asset.
Yeah, we're going behind the scenes with Michael Kessler.
Okay.
He's Slick CEO,
Okay.
and he's making a pretty bugged statement.
Right.
He says that patents might not be the be-all and end-all in the fast-paced world of AI.
Interesting.
He thinks they can be copied easily,
Hmm.
they can become outdated quickly,
Yeah.
and that really sets a company apart is its data.
And there's a good reason for that.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. Data is like the experience that a human expert gathers over years of work.
Hmm.
The more experience a surgeon has,
Right.
the better they become right.
Makes sense.
Same thing for AI.
Okay.
The more high-quality, specialized data you feed an AI system, the better it gets at its job.
So it's not just about having a lot of data, it's about having the right kind of data.
Right.
But this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Sleek isn't even bothering with a traditional patent portfolio.
Wow.
They're going all in on building what Kessler calls a data moat.
A data moat.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy. Think of an actual moat around a castle.
Right.
It protects it from invaders.
Yeah.
A data moat is like that,
Hmm.
but instead of water, it's built from data.
Okay.
This barrier of unique, valuable information that's really tough for competitors to get.
So how do they actually build this data moat?
Well, they do a few things.
Oh, okay.
First, they're really strategic about the data that they collect. Kessler talks about their robots operating in kind of chaotic environments like warehouses and hospitals.
Yeah.
And every time a robot encounters like an unexpected situation, maybe there's an obstacle in its path or a sudden change in lighting,
Okay.
that becomes a valuable piece of data.
So every hiccup, every challenge, it's a learning opportunity for their AI.
Exactly.
It's interesting.
That's why they're not afraid to put their robots through their paces in these demanding environments.
Mm-hmm.
They actually want their robots to encounter these unexpected situations because it helps them gather more of that unique, valuable data
Wow.
that makes up their data moat.
So they're collecting all this really specific data from their robots, out in the field.
Right.
But what are they actually doing with all this data?
Yeah, it's a good question.
How does it translate into better AI?
Well, it all goes back to feeding those AI algorithms.
Okay.
It's like giving a chef a wider range of ingredients to work with.
Okay.
The more diverse and high quality the ingredients,
Right.
the more delicious and unique the dishes.
Yeah.
In this case, the data is the ingredient, and a smarter, more adaptable AI is the output.
That's a great analogy.
That's
And I'm guessing Slike isn't keeping all this data a secret, right?
Right.
I mean, are they sharing any of this with other companies?
You're exactly right to ask that.
Yeah.
They're not just hoarding all the data for themselves.
Okay.
In fact, they're forming strategic partnerships to expand their data pool even further.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're working with manufacturers, logistics companies, even other robotics firms.
That's really interesting because it sounds like a very collaborative approach
It is.
in what you might expect to be a pretty cutthroat industry.
Yeah, you would think that, right.
Yeah.
They're realizing that by sharing certain insights and operational data
Okay.
with the right safeguards in place, of course,
Right.
they can actually accelerate AI development across the whole industry.
So it's like a rising tide lifts all boats kind of situation.
Exactly.
By working together, they can create AI systems that are more robust, more reliable,
Mm-hmm.
which helps everybody.
Precisely.
And it sounds like Slake's approach doesn't stop there.
It doesn't.
They also place a huge emphasis on real-world feedback.
Right.
They're constantly testing their robots in these challenging environments,
Okay.
pushing them to their limits to see, where they succeed and where they need improvement.
Exactly.
So it's not just about, collecting data in a controlled setting. It's
Yeah.
about getting that messy real-world data
It is.
from interacting with unpredictable environments.
You got it.
And each time a robot encounters a problem or has to adjust to a new situation,
Right.
that experience is fed back into the system, refining the AI algorithms and making the robot even more adaptable.
Makes sense. Right.
Yeah, but if they're not relying on patents,
Yeah.
how do they actually protect all this data?
Yeah.
Because it seems like it'd be easy for someone to just, copy their approach.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something they've thought a lot about.
Yeah.
While they don't have this huge patent portfolio,
Okay.
they are very strategic about protecting their core data assets
Okay.
and, the infrastructure that they've built to collect and analyze all of this information.
So they're not just giving away, the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
They're being careful about what they share and with who.
Exactly. Think of it this way.
Okay.
They offer access to their data and their insights
Mm-hmm.
through these very carefully crafted licensing agreements and partnerships.
Interesting.
This allows them to control how their data is used
Okay.
and to make sure that it benefits both sliQ and their partners.
So it's win-win.
It is.
They get to maintain their competitive edge
Right.
while also promoting, collaboration and advancement in the field.
Absolutely.
But what does all this mean from an investment perspective?
Yeah.
If someone's thinking about sliQ as, a potential investment, what are the key takeaways here? So it sounds like sliQ is really changing the game,
Yeah.
but is it actually a good thing? I mean, are there any risks to this data-centric approach?
It's interesting because you're right, it's not all perfect.
Right.
There are some risks for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest ones is data security.
Yeah. That makes
If they're building their whole business around this data,
right.
they've got to make sure it's protected.
Yeah, it's like putting all our eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
And if that basket gets compromised,
Right.
it could be really bad for the company.
It could be devastating.
Yeah.
They need to have really strong cybersecurity
Okay.
to prevent data breaches
Right.
and protect the privacy of everyone involved.
That makes sense.
Their customers, their partners, everybody.
But even if they can keep that data safe,
Yeah.
are there other potential downsides to this strategy?
Well, one thing to think about is bias in their AI. If their data isn't diverse enough, or if it reflects biases that already exist in the real world,
Right.
those biases could become amplified in the AI,
Oh, wow.
and that could lead to unfair outcomes.
So even though they're focusing on data,
Yeah,
they still need to think about where that data's coming from
exactly.
and what kind of biases it might have.
Right. They need to be able to identify those biases
Yeah.
and figure out how to mitigate them
Yeah.
to make sure that their AI is fair and equitable.
Okay, so it's not as simple as it sounds.
It's not just about collecting data, it's about being thoughtful about it.
Right.
But, despite these risks, sliQ seems pretty convinced
Yeah.
that the benefits are worth it.
Yeah, and it's easy to see why.
It is.
I mean, they're talking about faster growth, fewer legal battles over patents,
Right.
and a better position for acquisition,
Exactly.
all because they built their business around this data mode.
Precisely. And, this brings up a bigger question.
What's that?
Are we seeing a shift away from patents towards data as like the most valuable intellectual property?
That's a really interesting question.
It is. It really makes you think.
And if so, what does that mean for innovation?
Right. Like, where are we headed?
Are we going to see more companies taking this approach?
It's very possible, especially as AI and data become even more connected.
Right.
The companies that can use data effectively,
Okay.
they're going to have a big advantage.
So it seems like sliQ is making a pretty bold bet.
They are.
They're betting that data, not patents, is the key to success in AI. And based on what we've discussed, it seems like a pretty good bet.
It could very well pay off.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
It is.
I think we're entering a new era where data is king.
And if you want to stay ahead,
Yeah.
you got to be ready to dive into the data moat.
I love that analogy. Thanks so much for diving into this with me.
It was my pleasure.
I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about sliQ and other companies like them in the future.
I think so too. This is just the beginning.
Till next time.